Hey everybody, my name is Drew Calin. I'm really happy to be here in Montreal. I'm especially happy that it's sunny outside because yesterday it was dumping rain and we were all outside freezing all day, but this is really good fun. Tracy was up here just a few moments ago and she was talking about the community component of remote work, and I'm super proud to be part of that. We at Multiplier take a lot of pride in this movement, which is fundamentally changing the way that we all work and the way that companies can engage with employees, and how borderless economies are now a reality in our everyday life. It wasn't so long ago that we were totally dependent on our physical address and our driving radius that would dictate where we work, and that is completely eviscerated today, which blows me away. So I'm going to talk you through what we do here at Multiplier and give a real demonstration of our platform to give you an idea of how you can build compliant contracts anywhere in the world, set up benefits and payroll distribution, and build and manage a distributed workforce all through software. But before I do that, just a quick show of hands for people here. Who today has people on their payroll that are outside of a market where they have local entities? Yep, okay. And who here has been, so for those on the interweb, hey guys, thanks for joining. That was about 25, 30% of the room. Who here has been responsible for setting up an entity somewhere where they don't live? Smaller, maybe 10% of the room, 20% of the room. I've had the pain of doing both. So let me walk you through it, but before I do, I'll tell you what we do at Multiplier. So we basically remove the need for any company to set up a subsidiary anywhere in the world to employ people in those markets. So in the world of going global and gaining access to a global talent pool, that is one of the required movements in order for us to facilitate that. We do that because we have an entity network worldwide that gives you access to like 150 countries anywhere in the world through which you can employ people on Multiplier without having to set up that subsidiary. We basically employ those individuals and then subcontract them back to our customers through software. Super simple. And so what we're removing is the necessity to go through the pains of setting up the infrastructure and entities anywhere you want to hire people. And I want to share my own personal story. Before Multiplier, I was at a company called Greenhouse. It was a startup of mine. And we had scaled to people in 16 different countries. We had 56 staff in 16 countries, but only 2 entities. And as a co-founder and CEO, I was responsible for setting up the ability to recruit people anywhere we wanted to find good talent. And so we were able to onboard people in markets like Russia, South Africa, all over Latin America, Europe, all over Asia with just 2 subsidiaries, but it was super painful. The options available to someone like me in that situation and to all of us are A, you go set up the entity. In order to set up an entity, for those who don't know, you've got to get in market, open a bank account, get registered to operate there. You might need a nominee director if you don't have a local director, and a signatory. You've got to take months to get set up before you can actually place somebody who will then do some recruitment. So the go-to-market can take months. To give you some context in a real example, in Indonesia, if you want to enter Indonesia, it could take about 6 months on average to set up an entity and requires 700 grand USD in paid up capital. It's a pretty penny, right? The other alternative is to go through a staffing agency, for example. Anybody ever go through a staffing agency? Just one? How'd it go for you? Painful. Yeah, I know what I get, a lot of fees. So I went through that. I got charged setup fees. The termination fees are the worst. That's where they get you if you ever have to sever with an employee. And you don't have any real control over the relationship. You're always kind of felt like you're held hostage in that scenario. I really didn't enjoy it. I did it twice. I'll never do it again. And the third route is to go through, let's say, a freelancer model. Who here has freelancers on payroll? Just a couple? Super efficient way to get people in quick, right? Because you're not contracting anything legally, really. So the government doesn't recognize business transactions for freelancers, so you can't pay them through a bank account. You end up like stitching together your own payment solutions. One market here, there's TransferWise, another one here is PayPal, and in time it gets pretty matrixed and not very fun to manage. Plus there's no loyalty with freelancers because they'll go wherever they can get work, and if someone comes along and pays them more, they're probably going to leave you. There's no reciprocity in that relationship. So I want to walk you through how we address all of that, right? Starting with what we've done. So we're a 2-year-old business, almost 2 years old actually. We're super young. We were born during COVID. We're based in Singapore, the only such business that I know of based in Asia. We got about 166 staff right now in something like 35 countries. So we're super distributed by nature. We don't have a legal office anywhere that we work. We're fully remote, like most people here and most people in this conference. We are going to grow about 2x in size this year. We're super fortunate to be backed by some of the best VCs in the world. Sequoia is our lead investor in Series A and Series B, and actually how I ended up here to Multiplier, because they introduced me to the founders. And I understood with all too much familiarity exactly the problems that we were solving for. And I'm going to walk you through that now. Quick one for those of you here and for those of you online. If you have questions, please pop them into the app. I'll be addressing questions at the end. You can ask questions about the product, markets, any challenges you're facing. I'm super happy to help. You're also free at any point in time to get into our platform. So this is the interface, and I'll take you through it. But anybody here who's keen to check it out, you can go to usemultiplier.com. That's our website, and you can sign up yourself, fully self-serve. You never have to talk to anybody if you don't want to. Although I hope you do, because we can help you. So this is the software, and this is the interface, right? It's designed to be super simple. You can access at any point in time. You can utilize the entirety of the platform with no fees. We don't charge $1 until the first day that somebody actually joins your company through Multiplier. It's designed to be a full HR management system. So everything you need to manage a technical relationship between you as an employer and your employees will be found here. And I'll walk you through it in just a moment. But the main core function of the software, it puts you in position to hire and onboard employees anywhere you want all across the world. There's really 4 steps to getting set up. First is just setting up the employee details, creating a contract and sending it to your employees to sign directly through the interface, setting up payroll, and then, of course, verifying details through a very basic KYC. For the purposes of this session, I'll keep it relatively short. There is a navigation field on the left-hand side. I won't go through it all because I don't think it's all relevant to the nature of this conversation, but I'll walk you through a few core pieces. In the main dashboard, you can build and onboard employees, which is the core function of the platform. You can manage teams, and you can review resources. So we'll talk about resources for sure because we are a content company. What we're essentially doing is aggregating all kinds of intelligence around markets globally and bringing that to the forefront of the software so that anybody who's got questions about hiring in certain markets, whether it's taxation, local labor laws, where to recruit from, can get access to that on demand. We want to eliminate the need for you to have to do your own due diligence. That's what we do by nature, so we're creating content to bring that forward. There's this admin function on the left side here, which is super basic, but basically anything that an employee needs to submit to you in a technical relationship, again, as an employee, can be facilitated here. So things like taking requests for time off, submitting timesheets, submitting expenses, and you can modify salary revisions directly in the interface. Is this audio okay? Okay, yeah? Okay. Payments for invoicing, nothing special there, and setting up your admin features, nothing special there. But let me show you the juice of the platform. And we'll start with resources. So there's 6 different resources available. I won't go through all of them. I think there are a few which are most important. We'll start with the Talent Wiki. The Talent Wiki is an aggregation of country-level data that we've put together that's super searchable and templatized so you can get access to all the information you want as you're thinking about where you want to go to market. You know, the use cases for a platform like ours are pretty simple. There's really a couple, maybe 2 or 3. So I'll give you the first one. The first one is you've kind of got a one-off situation. You've got access to a really good person you want to employ. Maybe a friend of yours introduced you to a developer in Argentina who's really good, but you have no idea how to employ them, right? So the one-off circumstance where you're just looking for a solution that's compliant so you can get somebody into the payroll. The second is more interesting. I've got a bunch of contingent workers or some freelancers, and I'm super keen to get them on the platform as full-time employees because I don't want the risk of losing them. They're really good. I want to be compliant, and so I'm going to make a move there. And the third is the strategic customer. Really a lot of people here, right? Companies that have 200, 500, 2,000 employees. Maybe today they're 50% distributed, but they know they want to be 100% distributed. So there's a strategic initiative to really understand how to build a global distributed sales organization or a company through one platform and one software. Now, as companies and our clients start to think about this stuff, we want to walk them through the Talent Wiki, for example, right? So here, you've got visibility towards a variety of different countries. Let's imagine, for the sake of this conversation, you want to solve for Brazil. So what we've done is categorized all the intelligence that we believe is required based on the customers we work with and what they're looking for into this document. So for example, let's say I want to know the local universities I should think about recruiting from if I'm looking for young college grads. What you see here is a small directory of the top-ranked universities in Brazil. Let's imagine that I'm still budgeting the roles that I want to hire for, but I'm not sure what the going rates are for an engineer or a salesperson or a copywriter. You can see some of the most common roles that are being facilitated here, And you can get access to a larger salary explorer here. Let's imagine you want to get a sense of taxations, right? What's the income tax laws that I should be aware of in Brazil? That's all categorized and captured here so that you can start to think about the difference between the cost to your company in employment in Brazil and the net income to your employees in Brazil. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. A really important one, offboarding and termination. Hopefully we don't have to deal with this too often, right? But local labor laws in different countries change drastically. Anybody here ever employ one in the Philippines? Yeah? So termination in the Philippines, if done incorrectly, can be very costly. You can pay a severance of 1 year to employees you have to terminate if you're not set up right. So this is the tenor of the business, right? These are very serious compliatory issues that we need to manage when we're thinking about building a globally distributed workforce, even in different states in North America, for example, in the States. We're doing our best to aggregate it and keep it super simple and surface the intelligence you need to move on. So let's go back to this function. The second feature I want to show you is the salary calculator. I spoke a bit about the difference between cost to company, and the actual net income that the individual receives. We've created a widget here that gives you that calculation almost anywhere in the world on demand. So you don't have to go through the pain points, which I have had to do before, of trying to figure that out yourself or going to a third party and paying a consultant to do it for you. So we'll just do Brazil again. And let's imagine this person's going to make $2,014 a month. And I want to get a view of what the social contributions are that are mandated in Brazil. So here what you'll see is there's a mandate for social security tax, for employee severance indemnity, work accident insurance, and these are all a cost of the employer. So the budget of $2,014 actually turns into $2,698 for me, the employer. And if I want to get a view of what the employee will take home at the end of the day, because there is a social security reform contribution mandate, that is being calculated here. I see that they're taking home $1,422. So as I'm budgeting, as I'm negotiating with prospects, or talking to internal employees who perhaps are freelance that want to become full-time employees, or any variation of that, I've got access to this for a variety of countries. Again, there's no charge for this. We have an open door policy. We want to share the love with everybody. So you're free to get on there and start using the platform anytime you want without any restrictions or requirements. Now let's get back to the beauty of live demos. Cool. So we basically have 3 core products. I'll really spend the majority of the time talking about one, and that's going to be onboarding a full-time employee. That's really the EOR product, which stands for Employer of Record. Very sexy acronym, isn't it? The second is running payroll and benefits. So anyone who's got their own entities, for example, but wants to outsource the process of benefits administration or payroll across multiple geographies through one point of contact. That is a service we offer. That is traditionally called PEO, another very sexy acronym, stands for Professional Employer Organization. Calm down, I know it's exciting. And paying freelancers for everything I shared earlier, because it gets very complicated. You can't just pay them from a bank account and when they're in different countries. There's not one payment system that can facilitate movements globally. So let's talk about our bread and butter, which is how we can build a locally compliant contract right now in real time, almost anywhere in the world. So Multiplier has about 65 entities of our own right now all across the world. We've got partners that give us access to about 150 countries in total. We'll have 100 entities roughly by the end of this quarter on our own globally, so we'll be fully vertically integrated by the end of the year. No need for partners, which is super exciting and really cool. And in that period of time, you can build an employee contract with local compliance in minutes. It's the fastest platform in the world, and I'm going to show you how to do it right now. So let's imagine, here's a fun fact. Anybody want to guess the top markets worldwide for distributed talent? On our platform, the market's in highest demand for employees. Brazil is one guess. Canada? Kenya is another guess. Nice. Nigeria is another guess. Good one. Portugal is a good guess. Pardon? Philippines, yes? Okay, great. They're all in Asia, actually, right? So it's the Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, and India, because there's huge pools of talent there for customer service, for example, in the Philippines, maybe tech in Indonesia or Vietnam. But we see a ton of demand in those markets, right? Portugal, lots of Eastern Europe, Latin America is coming up. I'm sure many of you deal with that being here in North America. So let's imagine we're going to hire somebody in India. Perhaps we're thinking about building a small team there, and we want to get a sense of what's what. There's 5 steps to building an employee contract and to actually onboarding somebody on the platform. It starts with eligibility. We'll identify first if they're a local resident or a citizen, or if they're a foreigner, because there are complexities as it relates towards work visas. In most cases, most of our clients are working with locals. Then we're going to enter the basic information for the contract. We're going to go ahead and submit the compensation. We'll select insurance, which is a super cool function, and then we'll go through the compilatory components of the contract creation, and poof, Bob's your uncle. So let's assume that they're a local citizen, and we're going to enter some information, right? Super basic. For the sake of this demonstration, he will be me. I'm a male. We're going to use a dummy email. Let's say I'm a remote enthusiast. In the right place. You can choose to do fixed term, which is contingent or project-based, or you can choose to do permanent. I'd like to have a permanent job, so I'm going to give myself a permanent job. And let's say I start June 1st, and I'm super excited. So we're already on now to step number 3. And step number 3 is where we get to compensation. I'm going to pay myself handsomely. Nice. Maybe more reasonably. Okay, $9,500 a month. I'm happy with that. And I'm going to give myself a joining bonus. How cool is that? You can choose what kind of additional compensation needs to be part of the package. So we can do variable performance and bonuses, an allowance. Let's say I work in a commercial role, which I do. So every 3 months, starting from June, I'm eligible for a commission. And let's say I get some ESOP because my employers love me. I'm super excited about that too. I'll save this. Let's imagine my ESOP is worth 100 grand. It vests over 4 years. Standard vesting schedule, right? 25% each year. Cliff period of 0, because that's awesome. Vesting period annually, fine. And now within the contract, I've just added 2 components. Apart from my compensation, the commission component, I've just added ESOP. And now I'll get to insurance. Now, insurance is not mandatory in every country. In some countries, there's government-mandated insurance, and you can simply choose to offer private insurance if you want. We have a network of insurance providers all across the world that give us the ability to include insurance as a component in the software. And what's super cool about this is it's localized. So our partners are local, which means we can charge local rates. It means that in the event that anybody has to submit a claim, they have someone in their time zone they can speak to. And it also means that because it's integrated into the platform, you never actually have to speak to the insurer as an employer, because it's all facilitated directly through the platform. It's super detailed. You can choose to download a fact sheet. Again, this is all available to you anytime you want. You can get a sense of what's inclusive in the plan. You can download it. You can send it to an employee if you wanted to. And let's say I'm feeling very generous. I'm going to give myself the gold package for the sake of this demonstration. You can choose to include dependents or not. Let's imagine I'm single and I'm good. Now, we're on the compilatory side. We have this really cool feature here, which allows us to take recommendations on what we should change if we want to take those recommendations. Let's say we're new to hiring in India. But let's get into the compliance side. Really, it's just about the benefits. So for example, if I want to edit leaves, the minimum number of days that I can give an employee in India off is already integrated directly into the system. And that's the benefit of creating a templatized software platform that is locally compliant in every market in which we offer services. So I cannot go below 18 days. I can add days. Great, I love holidays. I'll take 18 more. Thank you. Maternity leave, yeah, I don't need that, right? But I'll take some sick leave. I think I'm pretty fit, so I don't need too much. But let's imagine I want to add some paternity leave. I got big plans in the future. I want to have some kids. And I'm going to give myself 100 days of paternity leave. Boom. Now we get into the toggle features. Anywhere where you can toggle, these are all really standard issues in any employee contract, right? So a probationary period is usually optional. Notice period is usually optional. Non-compete clauses are usually optional. And what you see in green here is what's recommended. So if I toggle it off, I can do whatever I want. If I toggle it on, it gives me an idea of what I may want to consider if I want to just follow best practices. And guess what? We've just created our contract. As this generates, I will share that in the interface you can review the contract live, right? But as someone who's gone through this and hired people in 16 countries, this is why I joined Multiplier. Because we just created a locally compliant contract in minutes on stage. And if you've ever done this, going back to my own experience, I had employees in 16 countries with 2 entities. First you're on Google trying to find recommendations for service providers. Then you're calling them in different time zones, and there's usually a language barrier. Then you're shooting emails back and forth at all hours of the night. Then you're negotiating rates. Then you're trying to review and validate their recommendations because you don't know them or trust them. Then you're redlining contracts back and forth. It is a fucking nightmare. It takes weeks, it's tons of money, it is a suck of life. So for us to be able to pull this off right now is super exciting to me personally, and as an employer, something I really appreciate deeply. I can choose to send the contract right away. So I have a candidate who's ready. In this session right now, I can send this over to a candidate right away. I won't, because I don't have anyone there right now. But that is the entirety of the onboarding process. So I want to keep it relatively short. I know it's the second day. Some of us are jacked up on caffeine, trying to fight a hangover, jet lagged. I flew in from Singapore. I slept like 3 or 4 hours the past 3 days each day. But I'm super happy to be here, and I would love to answer some questions if anybody has any. So let me go ahead and take a look at the questions. And please, by all means, anybody here, anybody online, feel free to submit any questions. The first one.
I think I can join you for that, because you are very lonely here. Can I have applause to this guy? Amazing presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
My mind was blown personally. I was the one saying, yeah, I have some problems with the global distributed force. What trends do you see in countries? You said some of the trends in Asia. Anything else that, we were here there, for example, someone saying Kenya. Any trends in the countries where people are hiring from that really surprised you?
It changes, it varies fast. I think Latin America is coming up really fast right now for sales roles and customer-facing roles. That's a trend we're seeing. Asia, where we're based, is our largest footprint. We have 16 entities, I believe, in Asia, and those markets are on fire everywhere. So we've got customers from Europe, North America, Latin America who are looking to employ in Asia. We see a lot of movement towards Latin America right now. Eastern Europe is a hotbed, especially for tech talent. There's no surprise there. Africa is a market that I think is gaining steam, but I'm not well versed enough yet to identify for which industries or in which specific segments. If Amrit has some input, I'm happy to hear from Amrit. He's our co-founder, hanging out in the corner right there.
Can we have a microphone there, please? Meanwhile, remember, you can ask questions. Just go to slido.com, and the code is RR22, Slido.com. So make sure you ask your questions, because we will answer all of them.
Thanks, Gonzalo. You knew I wasn't going to let you get away without coming up.
Fair enough. Hey, guys. Amrit here.
This is Amrit.
So just wanted to give you guys some insights. When it comes to talent distribution and talent crunch, which is what we are solving for, top of the funnel challenge is technology.
Is he audible? Put the mic up.
Okay.
Come up here. There's a camera.
Join us.
Don't be shy.
So,
so encouraging.
thank you, guys. You all can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So the top of the funnel challenge that we are solving for at scale globally is engineering and developer talent everywhere. So that's why, India ranks extremely highly, because that's where the greatest number of talent sits today. After that would be mostly Eastern Europe, Vietnam, and subsequently the oncoming talent in Africa. We don't see much of it in Latin America today, other than Brazil specifically.
Very curious, very curious. We have more questions coming. I think it's yours.
Thanks, Amrit. Next. Oh, you do your job. Go ahead. You're like my Vanna White.
Yes, you cannot go alone here if you're lonely. Which countries are the most difficult to have an entity? You mentioned Indonesia, for example. Any others that were a headache when you were setting up?
I mean, Indonesia is a nightmare. It could take 6 months. It's super challenging. There are definitely language barriers. It's very expensive. I mentioned that you have to put up $700K in paid up capital in order to set up in Indonesia. I'm not as versed in Africa. But I imagine there are certain markets in Africa which are tough.
I think you can stay here.
I will.
Just join us for the Q&A, please.
Yeah. So when it comes to opening entities, that's usually a 3-month headache. After that, there's usually another 3 to 4 months of opening a bank account. So
in some markets, you actually physically have to be there to open the bank account.
So those are some challenges. So it's very painful. On top of that, there are also a lot of political issues, i.e., when we are trying to open up an entity in Taiwan, they want to know for sure that we don't have any Chinese investors. And they go through all the lists of shareholders. So that are some of the challenges that we have to go through. But by and large, it takes about 6 to 12 months to open up an entity in a particular country.
Yeah.
Nice. We have keep them coming because I see more and more questions joining. How easy is to update an existing multiplier FTE contract if the employee moves from India to the Philippines? Wow.
Okay, so FTE is full-time employee. Right?
Thank you.
Gotcha.
That's why you guys are experts and I'm just an MC.
So you have somebody who's relocating, it's no problem. You can change a contract at any point in time. It's a software, it's all on demand. So you can simply terminate the original contract and just create another contract for the Philippines.
Just as easy as you showed us.
That's it.
Oh,
just
wow.
like that. Yeah.
Very nice. How do you handle countries where employer of record is prohibited, for example, Spain, or where outsourcing of employment is restrictive, for example, in Poland? Only easy questions.
There are usually ways. It comes with phraseology and how we term the contract. Oftentimes we try to avoid calling a person a salesperson in order to avoid creating a permanent establishment risk. So there are usually some legal nuances that we can get around.
Very good, thank you so much. Oh, I like this one. This one touched my heart. Is there a demand among clients to pay salaries through crypto? And do you have any plans to have crypto payments?
Yeah. Yeah, we do have crypto payments on the platform. Unfortunately, governments globally have a bias towards avoiding that. So that's the biggest challenge. In an EOR model, governments across the world don't want you to pay salaries in Bitcoin. They want US dollar, GBP, EOR, etc. Right? So that will take a very long time for governments to change, except in a few countries where they have adopted Bitcoin.
And we can't pay freelancers in crypto.
So that is already enabled on the platform today.
Correct.
Do you see it changing, like things were in crypto and you are interested because you already launched it? Do you see it changing slowly, for example, with US and other countries launching a stable coin? Do you think that will be the way to be paid in crypto, not through like Bitcoin, for example, but through stable coins?
Possibly. I'm not superbly familiar with stable coins as yet, but today, if I'm not mistaken, the primary challenge with cryptocurrency is that international transfers are a little bit more expensive than USD. So that's the limitation today.
Thank you. One more question coming from Nick. Thank you, Nick. Does Multiplier send end-of-the-year documents to full-time employees?
100%. They are legally our employees. We sort all of that for them.
Perfect. I'm not sure if we will have more questions, but if so, you have 1.5 minutes to keep them coming. Meanwhile, do you want to speak just a little bit about your offer? Because I saw it, and when I was presenting, I was very surprised. Can you just talk a little bit of the offer and how can people actually apply for the offer?
Yeah, so everybody here this is the beauty of the community we're all passionate about, right? You get the love back, give the love back into the community. So anybody here can onboard any number of employees you want through the quarter and get the first 3 months off for free. So any employees anywhere in the world, 3 months off for free, just so you can get a sense of the platform. There's no obligation for you to stay or do anything beyond that. And that is extended to everybody who's physically present or has registered for the event live. Those of you in the webosphere, I got love for you too. If you need some discounts, hit me up and we'll take care of you. We'll figure something out.
Perfect. Thank you so much for it. And I have one more question. Are you aware of education systems in these countries working to train their people to ready themselves for remote work opportunities? Very good question.
I am not.
Actually, it really depends on which countries take English seriously. So in a distributed workforce environment, so far we have seen that, the countries that are most open to it are the ones that are English speaking. So overall, in a lot of countries where English is still not even a first language or second language, we find it difficult for them to be for their talent to be exportable.
I want to give a shout out to Tracy because she was here this morning. She was the first one, and she's doing exactly this in Ireland to Grow Remote. So check Grow Remote because they are doing this at least in Ireland. One more question coming. Can you go into a little bit more detail on the contract language changes you make where EOR is prohibited. Go for details. We want details. We want the nitty and gritty.
You know I can't do that. That's the IP of Multiplier.
So what I will say is, if there is a pain point, it seems like maybe somebody has one, where you're trying to employ somebody in a market where EOR is prohibited, just contact us and we'll advise you and consult you the best way that we can.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I like that. And I think if there is no more questions, we can close this session.
Yeah.
For a networking session.
We're good. I just want to say thank you, everybody, for having us. Thanks for being here. Thanks for joining online. It's been a pleasure.